The Zapirian delegation had arrived with all the pomp and circumstance their species could muster. Their flagship, the Eternal Dominion, stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its sleek hull gleaming with polished metals that caught the light of Earth's sun in dazzling displays. Rows of plasma cannons lined its sides like the teeth of some cosmic predator, and shield generators hummed with barely contained energy that made the space around the vessel shimmer like heat waves. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the alien vessel approach with what appeared to be casual interest. Behind her, the diplomatic corps fidgeted nervously, adjusting their formal uniforms and checking their translation devices for the 100th time. This was humanity's first official contact with an interstellar civilization, and everyone wanted to make the right impression. "Magnificent, isn't she?" Ambassador Rodriguez whispered, gesturing toward the alien dreadnought. "Their technology must be centuries ahead of ours." Chen nodded politely but said nothing. Her eyes tracked the vessel's approach with the practiced gaze of someone who had spent 3 decades analyzing ship designs and tactical capabilities. The Eternal Dominion was indeed impressive by most standards, elegant, powerful, and undoubtedly effective against conventional threats. But Chen had seen humanity's latest creations, and she understood something the aliens clearly didn't. The docking procedures took nearly 4 hours. The Zapirians insisted on elaborate protocols, ceremonial formations, and what seemed to be a light show designed to demonstrate their technological superiority. Their escort fighters performed intricate maneuvers around their mothership, leaving trails of colored plasma in their wake. It was undeniably spectacular. When the alien delegation finally boarded Luna Station, they carried themselves with the confident bearing of a species accustomed to inspiring awe. The Zapirians stood nearly 3 meters tall, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming with biomechanical enhancements that pulsed with soft bioluminescence. Their leader, who introduced himself as Fleet Commander Kethvar, looked down at the assembled humans with what might have been benevolent condescension. "Greetings, young species," Kethvar intoned through his translation matrix. "We have traveled far to make contact with your kind. We trust you are suitably impressed by our vessel. The Eternal Dominion represents the pinnacle of Zapirian naval architecture, a fusion of organic design and technological supremacy that has dominated the spaceways for over 4,000 Earth years." The human diplomats responded with appropriate expressions of wonder and gratitude. They asked technical questions about the ship's capabilities, marveled at its size, and praised the elegance of its design. Kethvar basked in their attention, clearly enjoying the role of technological superior introducing primitive natives to the wonders of advanced civilization. Admiral Chen remained silent throughout most of the exchange, content to observe and analyze. When the aliens began discussing defensive capabilities and shield harmonics, she finally spoke. "Your vessel is indeed remarkable, Fleet Commander. We would be honored to show you some of our own naval traditions in return. Perhaps you would be interested in observing one of our training exercises." Kethvar's mandibles clicked in what the translation matrix rendered as amusement. "Of course, Admiral. We would be delighted to see what your young species has managed to accomplish. Your fusion-powered vessels show considerable ingenuity for such a recently spacefaring civilization." "Excellent," Chen replied with a slight smile. "I've taken the liberty of arranging a small demonstration. If you'll direct your attention to the main viewing port." The Zapirians gathered at the massive transparent aluminum windows that offered a panoramic view of the space surrounding Luna Station. At first, they saw nothing but the familiar star field and the distant glow of Earth's sun. Then Kethvar's advanced sensors began picking up massive gravimetric distortions. "What are those?" "Readings?" he muttered, his biomechanical implants interfacing directly with the station's sensor array. Chen's smile widened. "Those, Fleet Commander, are our ships. The first vessel materialized from what appeared to be empty space as its stealth systems disengaged. The UHNS Yamato was a monster of human engineering, not sleek like the Zapirian vessel, but brutal and purposeful. Its hull was scarred black composite armor designed to absorb and dissipate energy attacks. Weapon ports dotted its surface like the eyes of a spider, and massive railgun turrets tracked potential targets with mechanical precision. But the Yamato was just the beginning. One by one, humanity's newest generation of warships revealed themselves. The Bismarck, bristling with kinetic interceptors and gravity well generators. The Hood, its hull crackling with barely contained antimatter containment fields. The Enterprise, smaller but radiating the distinctive energy signature of experimental quantum weaponry. Within minutes, nearly 50 human vessels had surrounded the Zapirian flagship. Unlike the elegant curves and gleaming surfaces of alien design, these ships looked like they had been forged in the depths of hell itself. They were angular, aggressive, and covered in sensor-dampening materials that made them appear to drink light rather than reflect it. Kethvar's bioluminescent patches began flickering rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. His sensors were feeding him data that shouldn't have been possible. Some of these vessels were reading as larger than his own flagship, but that wasn't what disturbed him most. It was their power signatures. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Our intelligence reports indicated your species had barely achieved interplanetary travel. These power readings are accurate," Chen finished calmly. "You see, Fleet Commander, humanity has a particular talent. We've never been the smartest species or the fastest or the strongest, but we have one gift that seems to be relatively rare in the galaxy." The alien delegation watched in growing alarm as the human vessels began moving into formation. Their movements were precise, coordinated, and spoke of crews that had trained extensively in combat maneuvers. "We are exceptionally good at killing things," Chen continued conversationally. "It's something we've been practicing on each other for thousands of years. When we finally made it to space, we brought those lessons with us." The Yamato powered up its main batteries, and the energy readings made several Zapirians step back from the viewing port. The plasma discharges that followed weren't directed at any target. They were simply demonstration shots fired into empty space. But their intensity was beyond anything the aliens had thought possible from such a young civilization. "Your ship is beautiful, Fleet Commander," Chen said, watching as more human vessels continued to decloak around them. "It's elegant, efficient, and clearly the product of a sophisticated civilization. But it's also designed by a species that became spacefaring without ever facing a serious existential threat." She gestured toward the growing fleet of human warships, their dark hulls now completely surrounding the gleaming Zapirian vessel. These ships were designed by a species that spent its entire evolutionary history trying to kill itself. Every weapon system, every defensive measure, every tactical doctrine. It's all built on lessons learned from 10,000 years of warfare. We didn't build ships to explore the cosmos, Fleet Commander. We built ships to survive it." Kethvar's mandibles clicked rapidly as his tactical computer finished analyzing the human fleet. The numbers were sobering. His single vessel, impressive as it was, would last perhaps 3 minutes against concentrated fire from the surrounding ships. We came in peace," he managed. "And you'll leave in peace," Chen assured him. "Humanity has no quarrel with the Zapirian Collective. We're actually quite honored by your visit. But I thought it was important that you understand something about our species before we proceed with formal relations." She turned to face the alien commander directly. "We may be young, and we may be primitive by your standards, but we are very, very good at the one thing the universe demands of every species that wants to survive. We know how to fight. And more importantly, we know how to win." The demonstration lasted another hour. Human ships performed maneuvers that defied conventional understanding of physics, fired weapons that tore holes in space-time itself, and displayed tactical coordination that spoke of a military tradition refined through countless conflicts. When it was over, and the human fleet had melted back into the darkness of space as if it had never been there, Kethvar stood in stunned silence. His species had ruled a small portion of the galaxy for millennia, confident in their technological superiority and their right to guide younger races. For the first time in 4,000 years, a Zapirian fleet commander felt something his ancestors had nearly forgotten: the cold touch of fear and the humbling recognition that perhaps, just perhaps, they were no longer the apex predators they had always believed themselves to be. Humanity had just announced its arrival on the galactic stage, and the galaxy would never be the same.